Whoops. So this is the god awful large map. If you guys focus correctly, you should be able to see that you're in kind of the southeastern alcove of what seems to be the four. They're kind of four corners. It's not really the sign of a compass because it's off axis. But you have Airvation to the southwest, and who's the other one? Endurance to the northeast of you. It's pretty much in darkness here, and you guys are coming out of it. Velixis, you've been in this chamber alone for um, a short while that probably feels like a long while, whereas you have somebody like the others who have experienced dreadfully long amounts of time in nothingness, and you're kind of coalescing back to it. Brennick, and then like Finn, you've been in it that whole time. So what are you all kind of thinking as you are stepping away from isolation?
Yeah, so you'll see Brannick kind of like looking around, not really sure what happened. Like he's immediately looking for the others. Um, yeah, probably first thing he's doing is trying to um, line up another torch to see, kind of probably like calling out, uh, not too loudly, but for Velixis and Fen.
I just realized looking at my bot's computer screen, when I have you guys lit up with light, that does not show up on your page, does it? You
I mean, I see a circle of light around us.
Oh, okay, okay. It doesn't show up on my bots, but yeah, that's basically the sign that theoretically you've got light or you are
Oh,
light.
okay. I wasn't sure because I think Brannick had lit up a torch before we went in. I wasn't sure if that was still lit or not when we
Yeah,
came
that's
out.
kind of what I mean by theoretically. It assumes that well, I kind of assume once you're lighting lights, I assume you're always using them. To decide how many get used is kind of a moot point to me. But in the long run, yeah, you would have burnt one before, and this would be a fresh one.
Okay, so this is actually Brannick's last torch as he comes out and lights it up.
Oh shit! Campaign just got real. You guys are out of torches.
At least search his back to see if I have any more.
And Brannick will probably be like looking to Velixis, like, "Were you there? Did you? I didn't see you."
No, no. The door it closed on me before I got in. What was your trial this time? Did you have to kill more people, or was it something a little easier?
Wouldn't say doing what I did was easy, but we made it to a camp and were asked to keep watch while the hunt seemed to be a day or so, but then I lost track of Valine and Fen, and not, not quite sure what happened after that.
Felicia's kind of raises her eyebrows. A day or so. You were only in there for an hour.
Based on the descriptions, I believe that these trials, the time passes differently for each of us. To me, it appeared to be almost a 10-day that I was alone. And also, these trials, I believe we should face them together as the skills required may come from any of us. The more and we are together, the better we will be able to face it. And the first, as much as I hate to admit it, we needed somebody like Brennick to pass the test. And in the second, it seems we needed somebody like myself and the others. We may need something for you, Valixis, or from you, Valine, in order to pass it that Brannick and I don't possess.
Yes, we should certainly stay together. There are, and Brennick will kind of look around and then kind of open his mouth to say something, then shut it again. Yes, we should stay together. He seems very nervous.
As long as I don't have to take anyone's life, I'm pretty sure I could probably do I can do the test. But if it involves taking someone's into life when there's another option, I refuse to do it.
It seems that we need to display our virtue and endurance. We have shown our cruelty. You can rest assured that perhaps you've passed your test, little kobold. And she'll kind of smile to Brennick with a little, like, sly smirk.
Brennick will kind of give a small nod in acknowledgement, and then kind of looking towards Valixis and Fen. Still don't know what innervation might be. I guess would be innervation, but perhaps we should start with endurance of the last two.
That might be good. That sounds like a good idea. Melissa stands up and dusts herself off and kind of straps all her items back to her.
My bad, guys. I messed up my sound for that. I kind of missed the last interaction with Brennick since I spoke as Valine. Did you guys interact with yourselves?
Yeah, we're just Brannick was just suggesting that of the two remaining tests, we begin with endurance, and then Valixis was giving her agreement with that idea.
All right, solid. I just wanted to make sure you guys were doing you, and it wasn't any more disruptive that I did that. So yeah, you guys know, and you can also check by looking at the writing on the wall that you are heading through the ice door to the northeast to head into the test of endurance. This is going to be a pretty similar situation where, as you all explore forward, you're going to push that door open with the force of two people, finding a couple of kind of antechambers moving forward before you see another door that is between these two not cauldrons, the tented fires, basically, and braziers. And as you walk through this blue light and you go to push forward on that door, you are basically going to find yourself whisked into snow and blizzard. And as your senses kind of take, once again, you are looking down, or you are looking on at a reg nomad camp. As you all look forward, this time you are going to see that there are many nomads moving in front of you, many humanoids. It's not but a few moments before you are going to see that some seem to react to your presence and seem to look towards you. As the first kind of grab weapons and kind of like seem to come to attention to your presence, what immediate actions do you all take?
Brannick, seeing them kind of suddenly like in the midst of these nomads, is going to and seeing them kind of reacting as well, is going to be kind of raising his hands instinctively, um, kind of like back, kind of in a warning gesture.
Gotcha. What do we have Alexis doing?
Let's kind of just jump back and kind of get a defensive position, being wary of the people around her right now.
Defensive, you're about to cast something and like ready something, or are you taking like a dodge action?
Taking a dodge action.
Gotcha. And what do we got Fen going through right now?
Fen is just going to stand by Brennick looking intimidating.
Gotcha. Valine is going to just kind of like over your shoulders lean down. Endurance. As you call out Brennick, you're going to see one of the tallest figures, by far larger, both in height as well as breadth. Will kind of like walk past some of the others that already have their weapons drawn and is going to yell out into the blizzard. We shall not lie down to your desire and pleasure. Emissary of Auril, be gone, or help us. And then he's going to get the attention of the others and get them back to work, taking down their tents. You are effectively being ignored now.
Help them with what? What are we supposed to help them with?
So you could move into the camp and start to ask them. You guys are on the outskirts still. Otherwise, they're clearly taking down camp. So if you are simply looking for what they might need help doing, it's taking down camp.
Fen will pitch in.
Gotcha. So without much question, you all are going to start moving in and helping them take down their yurts, basically getting everything set up onto sleds, getting dogs set up onto leashes and teams, and preparing the nomads to leave. After
Brannick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
So Brannick is going to be kind of like moving closer towards the big one who spoke and kind of looking off in the direction that he shouted at. And kind of as they're sticking to close with Fen and Felixis, but essentially trying to like ask like, what threatens the camp.
What do you mean
is
the
coming?
direction he shouted at?
Well, I guess you said like he kind of shouted out off into the blizzard. So like,
he was shouting towards you all. He was basically acknowledging what the others had seen, and his initial approach was to yell off to you, that like warning, kind of be gone or help, and then he immediately got them back to work, taking down the tents in the camp. So he doesn't necessarily have a direction like that, but they are clearly cleaning up camp. So if you ask to that effect, does that sound where you're going? Effectively, what's the urgency?
Yeah, I misunderstood. I guess I didn't realize I thought he was kind of shouting either beyond us or like off in the other direction as we were approaching. But same kind of idea. He would still, I think, be doing the same.
So by now, you all might recognize that those glowing snowflakes over your foreheads, they see you as emissaries of Auril because you are wearing Auril like a robe. You all are the emissaries of Auril. You stick out like a sore thumb because you all have this like levitating, glowing snowflake. So yeah, they were yelling out to you. In the process of taking down camp, you guys can certainly help. It does certainly help in some ways. You definitely get in the way just as much as anything else. These people are pretty good at doing what they're doing. You can certainly gather over the next little bit, be it from the actual biggest man who will identify himself as Gunvald Halragen's son. He is the effectively king of the bear tribe. This is the bear tribe. Oh wait, no, I said that wrong.
That was the first group we met, right?
Yeah, this is Jarund Elkhard. My bad. This is the king of the elk tribe. And they are also, this will make more sense in a moment, following the elk. This band is basically getting together to clean up camp because the herd of reindeer are heading into the east. And you guys can basically figure out that is why they are under pressure to head off, and they must follow the reindeer as they migrate. When you want them set up in camp. Go ahead, what were you thinking, Alexis?
I'm sorry, I thought you was going. I was gonna say, well, and then I was going to point out to Brendan and Brendan, it makes sense that they would be following the elk.
So after they break camp, they are going to start to head off into the east. What are your thoughts?
Felix turns to Brendan and so do we follow them or what do we do now? This this is a trial of endurance, so it we might have to follow them for a while.
Brannick will nod and suggest, yes, we should move with them.
So if it becomes a group decision that you all do start to move out, we assume that you all can kind of find your places in this group. Again, dog sleds do not necessarily travel any faster than you guys can walk just with snowshoes. The actual process is relatively similar, but they travel twice as fast as you, but have to take breaks regularly versus your pace is kind of constant. Mostly that won't be a big deal. There's certainly some level of an issue because we still have Valine as a giantess. I am not sure how long that is going to last. I meant to kind of fiat that away so this wouldn't become a problem and then forgot. But as far as things go, you guys basically start to undergo a forced march following these elk.
And
For...
Brannick, oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
So like kind of as we're marching to, Brannick is going to be maybe, if he's close enough to one of them, ask like, have they been troubled recently by the tiger tribe? Because I think it was the tiger tribe that had said they were going out hunting for the elk tribe in our second trial. But he has no idea kind of with the time thing, like how that actually works. So he's
Our people are constantly beset by the tiger. We endure. I think in the long run, you could kind of ask over and over again. And I kind of think, again, not only simply because you are inside of the test of endurance, but also I think that's kind of the life of prey, is that there's a certain level of prey either outbreed their predators or they simply have to try to stay ahead. And that's why you live as a herd. That's why there are many elk tribe, and there's the king, but there's also other camps as well. So I think but that's also true of the other ones. I have a feeling, though, you would find that elk tribe probably has larger camps, um, despite being kind of less predacious. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably the solid answer you would get. That it is very much like a bearing that they hold, like they have to carry, that the tiger tribe exists.
right. Outbreed or outrun, yeah.
But it's also like it's very normal for them. In the long run, when you talk about what the reg nomads are, these are tribes that have existed under pretty similar circumstances for many generations of humans. There's an ebb and flow to how things kind of play out. I think just as much like when you have real predators and real like breeders kind of thing, there's a certain level of if the tiger tribe lives by stealing food that others got, they also can't kill off everybody else because eventually like somebody who's skilled at catching the game is no longer somebody you can steal from. I feel like that kind of natural order kind of exists, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah, and it probably
Maybe
like
at
goes
least
in
they
cycles, right? Sometimes the
maybe at
tiger
least
tribe
they
gets too
believe that.
big. Yeah, tiger tribe gets too big. They kill too many of the elk. The tiger tribe starves. Then the elk are allowed to rebuild because they can't go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there's definitely those things. These are definitely like the really cool Aboriginal people like Eskimo who exist in these terrible cold conditions. But like just like I was saying, them taking down the camp, you guys kind of get in the way. This is one of those things where these people have living in these conditions down pat. That's not to say it's not horrible conditions, but they are experts at living like this. Um, but yeah, as far as things go, you all are also always welcome to interrupt me and interact. But this is going to roll on into a forced march over a long period of time, over many, many miles. You all are eventually going to get into 8 hours of this process of just pushing through blizzards. Very little sign of anything to tell you that time is going by besides just the tiredness of your body that is sinking in and just driving this force of cold and enduring into you. I need everybody to make a constitution saving throw. Rishtad, did you get into D&D Beyond?
I have not. It is
Do
just
you
a fun
want
game.
to roll a d20 on roll 20 and I can give you your con modifier is 3? Or do you want me to roll with D&D Beyond?
Both when it just went blank.
Gotcha. So at very least for this one, I'm going to roll it real quick so we have it.
Thank you.
Oh my god, I forgot that graphic is so slow. I hate you, D&D Beyond. It was a mistake. Assuming that Valixis passes this, this forced march is going to continue on as you all are finding that this test of endurance is the breaking down of your body as this group is forced marching across the tundra of Icewind Dale through these horrible Arctic conditions. We are going to go for another con save. And I'm going to see if I can actually turn off the roller. The first one.
So that first one show up.
Yeah. All right. So with that one, you guys are going to notice that as the second hour of this forced march continues on, Valixis is going to be pushing forward just a little bit slower. Valixis will take on one level of exhaustion with that. You all are going to continue pushing forward here, and it goes into its 10th hour of forced march. I need everybody to do another Constitution saving throw.
And at this point, Brannick is like periodically just like he's like kind of got his head down, he's trudging along, he's periodically like casting um minor illusion just so that he can have something to focus on and be like just like kind of like I need to get to there and then casting it again, like just trying to force himself on. Like make it to that like shrub, even though it's not a real shrub, it's like a shrub he created. This comes from my old cross country days where it was just like, get to that next point and then next point and next point.
No, I definitely agree. Those little goals. I was like endurance bike rider like that, riding like 70 miles a day. It's always like you just look in front of you, and it's that next point that's just a few seconds away, and you're just constantly keeping focused on that. You just walk to the next illusion, walk to the next illusion. You
Yeah.
can probably cast it just beyond your sight, so it almost hits you with that like pleasure, like 2 or 3 times, where you cast it, you see it, and then you get to it. Cast it, see it, get to it. Those would kind of like roll over, maybe with a little kind of like a heartbeat sense to it, where you cast it and then see it a little closer, get to it in the next few moments, kind of thing. But it would definitely kind of roll forward like that, and depending on how bad everything gets, it's going to get worse as you all push on for I think I said 10th hour here. Ben and Valixis are going to gain another level of exhaustion. And this one will be pushing forward into now the 11th hour. We need another Constitution saving throw. My bad. Double click that. The second roll from Rashad's going to, or from Valixis is going to be for the next hour to come here. So with that one, Valixis is going to fail, as well as Brennick. Each of you will gain another level of exhaustion.
I think Fenn's pride is hurt that Brannick seems to be enduring this as well as he is.
And then we will go into the 12th hour of forced march. I need Constitution saving throws all around. This will be another fail from Valixis. Then you are just able to stay.
Alexis turns to Brennick and Venom says, I knew this one was going to be trouble for me. I'm barely able to keep up with this point.
Oh, and I forgot too. There's a point where you're going to gain disadvantage on con saving throws. On hand right away.
That's level 3 exhaustion gives you disadvantage on saving throws.
Gotcha. So Valixis is on disadvantage as well right now too.
I just
Are
had to
you
look
still
up.
unable? Yeah, I just didn't.
'Cause-
I have like a cheat sheet that doesn't have that because exhaustion really is that much.
Because I know there's some point where you can't move anymore, so I want to check that.
Yeah.
I'm back in roll 20, but D&D Beyond is basically giving me the middle finger right now because it is coming up.
So you are pushing into the 13th hour of exhaustion. Anybody with 3 or more levels right now, you are at disadvantage. Rashad, if you can roll 2d20, you will take the lowest, and you have a +3 con modifier. But otherwise, everybody, we are looking for a con 15 saving throw right now. And Valixis, you are going to fail and take a 5th level of exhaustion.
Sorry, I lost track. Do I need to roll another one, or was that last one the one for this check?
Shit. This is the 6th total of them. Can we go back and look at your rolls? I think the 2416 was your first.
Yeah, so I need to roll another one. I think I've rolled 5 so far.
Yeah, 6 will be the 13th hour. That one will fail as well. So Fen, you failed it. You'll gain another level of exhaustion. What exhaustion are you at?
I'm at 2 also.
Gotcha. So each of you are essentially like kind of ridden onto these carts. Realistically, your speeds are halved. Velixis, you are at 5 levels of exhaustion. If you would like to push on, you have a save to endure, and if you fail it, you will die. Do you want to push on, or are you going to abandon Elk Tribe?
She's going to abandon. She already knew she wasn't going to be able to make this one.
So when you kind of give in to your endurance, you are going to just kind of be whisked away, and in the kind of moment, you all will just kind of see as Velixis kind of like stands up from one of these uh, wolf sleds, and just kind of during a little break, Velixis is just going to disappear into the snow. And Velixis, you will soon find yourself back at the entrance inside of the temple. For the other two,
I'm sorry, that'll put me at a level 3 exhaustion. That last
you're
one.
at a level 3?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, now yours will be at a disadvantage here. We need one more saving throw from you all.
Felisa, since she's no longer there, lays down and takes a nap.
Valine is actually going to leave, I think, at the same time that Velixis disappears. You're going to see, well, realistically, it's more likely that nobody will actually notice when it is either of them disappear. But Valine is going to disappear in a pretty similar way. My apologies there. What did we get from Brennick? Brennick, you are going to fail, and Fen will fail as well. How many does that put you at, Fen?
That'll put me at 4.
4, and Brennick's at 3.
Yep.
Thought you said it was 15.
Well, that was the last one.
Yeah, he failed his. We went from 2 to 3, though. Let's see. So, yeah, and that one was a save of 16 as well. So when you all get in after about 14 hours of this forced march, they are going to prepare to set camp. While you all arrive, and assuming you help them take down camp, you might help them set up camp, go through the process of starting to assist them. You are going to basically see as the wind and the snow, even directly in front of you, will cloud your vision where you can't see, even to the tips of your outstretched fingers on your outstretched arm. Where eventually you are going to come back to, and you all will be back inside of Auril's temple at Grinskull.
See kind of Brannick taking just like big. Brannick just kind of taking.
I kind of lost you breaking up there. I'm not sure if it's on my side because I've already had issues. Did everybody else hear Justin breaking up?
Yeah, I hear what he said.
I opened it to speak, but then I was hearing background noise, so I stopped. I didn't actually say anything.
Oh, okay.
But I was gonna say, like, you'll see, like as Brennick coming back, he's taking like big shuddering breaths, and he's clearly exhausted. And are we still suffering the effects that we felt um, within the trial as we come
Um,
back to?
so this is one of those points. I don't think there's any reason to make this be a permanent suffrage, because otherwise that almost necessitates you guys are going to spend like a week here resting. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like coming out of this has that very magical sense in the same way it was perfectly natural to kind of have a time dilation here. You guys have a certain semblance that that time did pass by. You have a certain understanding, Valixis, that your life was really at risk. But you also didn't touch it to try to figure that out. Coming out on this side, though, I think it makes a lot more sense to kind of put you all back in about the same situation and to not force like that endurance, the suffrage of that kind of weakness to be permanent.
Brennick is almost like kind of like he's still breathing heavy, like almost before he realizes that he no longer feels the effects, like well, psychosomatically. He's like takes him a minute for like him to realize that it's those effects have been fading as he comes back out of this. But he'll like look towards Valixis and Valine and Fen and almost like, did we pass?
I wouldn't know. I was back here before y'all. I'm not sure where they were headed or whatnot. So. We only have one test left. Should we head into it?
Valine will start walking toward the other side of the cave. Maybe not as assuredly as you all have seen her lead in these past few days, but she definitely has still kind of a calm presentation of determination, as just with the mention of it, the reminder that whatever's past is past, there's only forward. She kind of just walks forward and to elevation. And whatever we must do to please the Frost Maiden, so that we can unlock the codicil.
Braddock will be kind of like look towards Valixis when she says this, and let's get this over with. But otherwise, we'll follow after Valine and the others.
So again, a pretty similar room lies before you. Two people pushing on the door is able to move it out of the way, where you will see kind of an antechamber before a slightly larger chamber with the beers of fire that are burning, and present to you another door of ice and stone. As you can kind of move in past this first one, past the torches and the sconces, and pushing on that door, you are once again going to be torn through the snow and ice out into the blizzard, out into the wilderness, and out into the tundra of Icewind Dale, where you will once again see another tribe's camp ahead of you. In the dimmest bit of light that remains, there's no fire, there's no movement, there's signs of huts, there's signs of the nomads. The first bit of movement that you will see will blend in with the snow, blend in with the kind of like furs of some of these yurts. And after a few moments, you all are going to see that there are vultures inside of this nomad camp, and they are landed on the ground and feeding. What would you all like to do?
Melissa steps forward to take a closer look at what they're feeding on, if it's animal or what. Because since they are now in the camp, she wants to see if the camp is abandoned of people, and if what they're feeding on is just animals or dead people.
Before you could even get to where the actual vultures are, you will find at least one or two other corpses. This entire settlement is ridden with bodies. Probably walking towards the vultures, Velixis is going to pass by 3 to 4 other bodies if you are trying to get to the vultures that are kind of in the center of camp.
I think Brannick, if he spots some of these vultures, will be. I think he'll instinctively he's going to throw a firebolt actually and try to get them, kind of scare them off, aiming at one of them, but
A fire bolt?
bolt. Sorry, yeah.
Gotcha. What is everybody else doing as Brannick starts to enchant the weave within his hand and form this little bolt of fire?
Melissa's looking around trying to figure out what happened here. She goes to actually inspect one of the bodies to see if she can tell what the cause of death was.
And Fen?
Ben is going to pull his sword and start yelling, "Be gone!"
So let's get you all to place yourselves on the board and we will roll initiative.
Sorry, which direction are we coming from?
My bad. Come from the southwest.
I was assuming like Brannick would have only seen kind of one of these things at the start rather than all of them kind of huddled around. I think he was still
I
doing
am
the
not
same thing.
trying to hide that they are all feeding on essentially the same thing. But as far as things go, like I have other vultures that are technically around the area. I wanted to put them out of the way, but you guys kind of have this initial like group in the center of camp. So we've got you guys placed on the board. My bad, there's the initiative counter. I'm not sure if anybody has rolled. Velixis, do you want to roll a d20 and add, or should I roll for you? You've got a +3 dexterity. So 12. And would somebody like to roll for Valine?
Was that 10 for Valine?
That works.
I roll for my teammates and numbers not so high. I roll for my enemies and it's damn near max.
Who's your enemy?
Oh no,
I'm talking about the last time.
Oh,
You
oh,
like
that
you
hit point
not
roll.
looking at me. Yeah.
The variance in hit points in 5th edition, where shit has so many hit points, it's such a minor little thing. Alrighty, so we've got Valixis at 12, Valine is an 11. So this is one of those situations where Brennick and Fen, you guys can kind of plot out if you want to take your turns at the same time and kind of interact with each other. You have that ability here. But give me a few moments here, and we'll get these vultures all set up.
actually, just gotta step away for 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, back. Sorry about that.
Gotcha. So you and Fen can begin this attack. You're essentially starting to cast Fireball. He's pulling his weapons, and you guys can go ahead. Or Firebolt. I hate that those things are so close.
Yeah, I think Brannick is almost kind of like he's getting ready to cast Firebolt before he sees like that there are like this many, and so he's like almost like kind of but he's like too far into it already. So he's going to go ahead and cast it at the I guess the one.
You are a divination wizard. Hack the system, cast a fireball. If you think you're like catching yourself off guard, cast that fireball.
Yeah, okay, so he'll be shouting at Fen like hold, and yeah, he will drop a fireball probably above the main cluster of creatures, like right in that center there.
Gotcha. I'm like you have the template you can drag out there, but I think without any problem you could easily align it where you could hit all 6 of those buzzards.
Yeah, kind of like centered right around there, just like a little bit above, so it kind of catches them in the um yeah.
So I have a feeling that is 2 of them are passing, 2 of them are failing, but let's see the damage from you, please. Yeah, DC 15, so that'll be 2 pass. And for 25 damage, let me have Don and Rashad roll 3d10 each. Brennick, roll 2d6 for me. No repeats. So we will go with that 12 damage for those that saved. So 24, so 12. That one's bloodied. And then the other one won't be bloodied.
And Brannick is kind of like rushing up to join Fen and or Volix is there, and that's otherwise his turn.
Yeah, so you are otherwise exploding 6 of these vultures, like in the spot. What is Fen thinking as you watch, drawing your weapons? These creatures are exploding. Are you getting in on that jam? Are you about to run in there and punch the other 2?
I think I'm going to advance and hold my action to attack anything that comes near us. But as a question, are the other tokens, like the one that's near us, are they corpses?
Yeah, I didn't do like X outs on everything, but at this point there are on the board. Every Eskimo is effectively a corpse. So I think there's like 10 or so corpses that I put on the map. Part of what I was trying to drive home as Velixis started walking in, there are more bodies than I'm showing. I didn't think it necessarily needed to be fully explicit that this was like a small massacre here.
I figured just double checking. So in that case, yeah, I'm gonna hold my position and hold my action to attack anything that comes in my space.
Excellent. So you can pull this. We are going to go to Velixis. What would you like to do? I think one who's already moving forward to check that body. What were you thinking about looking for? Are you changing once you hear the explosion in kind of that instant?
I was she was checking to see what the cause of death was for the body. Um she does at the initial explosion from Brennan's fireball, she does kind of stand up and looks around to see and sees what happened and notices that they're attacking.
Roll. You can do a perception check. You could do a medicine check. Um, You could probably do something like an insight check, but you're looking at different answers based on what you would like to do.
Seeing that it's just birds, she's going to immediately go, okay, so they can handle this without me, and she goes back to checking the body, so a medicine check.
Gotcha. Go for the medicine. That'll give you the best answer, like, as to what physically killed him.
I don't know if I have a plus in that because I can't see it.
I do not see a medicine. Wow, you've got +3. What does that count?
Medicine is
Um,
wisdom.
Wisdom? Okay. Yeah, +3 from wisdom as well. Oh, Felix, this is like all +3. My bad. So, looking over the body, I think probably slashing wounds. Um, Maybe taking time to see like two different bodies. You might see evidence of like crushing blows from blunt force trauma. But looking over this, I think it's enough to recognize that these are people who were killed by humanoid weapons. These were not killed by vultures. These people were killed by somebody with culture who created artifacts of murder.
Okay, noticing that she's actually going to go ahead and in return, she's going to probably go over to another body, running through the chaos and checking another body to see what else she can find.
Gotcha. What would you all like Valine to be doing? What do you kind of think she might have been doing? Do you have anything you would be asking her to try to do? Or is she kind of being left to her own devices at this?
I feel like maybe she'd be following Fenn's lead and kind of like holding, like in case some of these vultures come after us. So maybe holding a cantrip kind of thing.
Gotcha. She can certainly approach and she will form her same like undeath arms, like those glowing dark purple skeletal arms. So she almost looks like she's got 4 arms here. I never actually thought, I think they would be tiny. I don't think there's any reason that her arms would grow. The spell would change it all. So she's got her tiny little baby arms that she forms. That are these little skeletons. And she will hold right beside Fen. And we are going to have as these final 2 vultures are going to pretty much immediately take flight, and they are going to try to fly up and into the air. Um, Assuming you all do not care to simply kill off the vultures, they are going to kind of fly just out of sight.
Yeah, I mean, Brennick's original idea was to kind of scare him off. Um, so he's not going to go trying to kill the fleeing ones. So he would let them go.
So, assuming you all go ahead with that, we will end this combat here. These last two vultures, and realistically, I'll take away the other vultures, kind of fly off uh, into the storm overhead, and more or less are gone. If you guys took the time to try to like sense them out, you'll sense them. I think Fen would be the most likely to recognize that they are effectively just outside of your sight in the blizzard. Um, and then anybody who might have like animal handling, perhaps you've got an understanding that these kind of creatures will get just far enough away that you're not going to hurt them. Probably little more.
So Brennick seeing Felixis kind of over one of the bodies will kind of move towards her. It's like what killed them? What happened here?
The last two bodies I checked showed that it was definitely blunt force trauma from humanoid weapons and attacks. So what I'm doing now, and she explains, now I'm just checking to see if they had.
Wait, hold up. I was saying you saw slashing, and then if you check another body, blunt force trauma, like there's multiple sources of this death.
Oh, okay. I thought you was referring that to just the first two bodies that she checked.
No, like if you get to a third, maybe not then, fourth or fifth, you guys are eventually going to find that these are people who have been killed by hammers, axes, spears, swords. There's a lot of different implements of death. All of them are very humanoid weapons.
Okay, so no animals with them.
And do we see any like weapons on the corpses? Any drawn weapons or any? What is it? Uh,
I think you could find sometimes there are gnaw marks. Um, Give me a animal handling from Velixis. That's a +3 as well. Brennick, I don't think it would be difficult for you to spot some weapons around these people. Perhaps not necessarily nice weapons. But this is where you'll kind of see I feel like a lot of stuff like the Inuit use, you'll actually see like the whale bones are kind of turned into very razor-like implements, and you'll see kind of things along those lines. These aren't necessarily people who have swords, but they can make slashing or stabbing implements that are like scalpels. Um, I kind of feel like that's most of what the reg nomads are more likely to use than necessarily something that's like a big heavy metal weapon. But there's still evidence of weapons on them.
Gotcha.
Um,
Brennick was kind of thinking along the lines of, maybe if whoever killed them might have stripped them of weapons, and maybe that would tell them about something that attacked them, the nature of whoever
um,
attacked them.
yeah, I don't think there's any reason that they would be stripped of weapons. They would still have some clothing. You could possibly find around this place, maybe it seems a little bit shy of blankets. But I think the safe thing to say, assuming you guys are looking around this place, the first thing that crosses your mind is not that somebody came to raid this place for supplies. It was not to raid this place for weapons. These people seem to have their weapons. They seem to have food and goods that are still here that are theoretically worth taking. Valixis, I do think you would be able to identify that there are wolves that were certainly a part of some of these things. Maybe some of the actual damage of the wolves kind of gets clouded because you've got razor claws from the vultures. But over time, perhaps you're picking out the difference between the slashes of like the vulture's claws and the kind of like piercing and tearing of the like wolf bites around ankles, or like a wolf bite like on somebody's side that shows that maybe this person was like taken down in a grapple by a wolf like biting into their torso. um but while you all are searching here, you are eventually going to hear whimpers, and crawling out from the snow is going to be a little boy, just kind of barefoot, very light, almost like capri-like pants, that barely come down past his knees. He's got a light kind of triangular throw over him that's in like a light blue and white. He was inches beneath the snow, in this little area where you were, just kind of to the west of you all, and seems to crawl out of the snow and look to you all. Thank you. They were. And he's going to walk over to where the bodies of those burnt vultures are, and he's going to kind of look down. They were my parents. And you'll see that there are two bodies on the ground that the vultures were eating from.
Felixis would approach the boy and try to console him, and also ask, um, what did this? Did you see who else was here, if anyone else was here before the vultures?
What would you like to say to console him, besides trying to narratively tell me that, and then ask a question of somebody who you also know needs consoling?
My bad.
I'm
Yes,
curious whole conversation here.
my bad. So to console him, what she before asking the question, she initially kind of apologizes and ask him or ask him if there was anything they can help him with right now, and that she's sorry for his loss. Because Velissa is not very good at consoling.
I don't exactly know much about Arctic people's burials, but I have a feeling it is effectively mummification via cold. I think he's going to ask you to try to help his people by burying all of his people.
All right, we can definitely help you with that. And she kind of turns to Brennick and Finn and says, "Would y'all be okay with helping him bury his people? He's just a little boy. He's not gonna be able to do this alone."
So Brannick will be kind of, you'll see his kind of jaw kind of clench, but he'll nod towards Felixis in terms of her request, and then he'll kind of be looking towards, then move closer and kind of looking towards the boy and kind of trying to feign like a supportive, empathetic kind of of voice, be like, what happened here, boy?
Let's elbows you on your side for that, for asking that without first helping him with the bodies.
Take an elbow for asking the question I tried to ask. Roll of persuasion, Brennick. Kind of like struggling to really get things out. This person doesn't really seem entirely there. They're definitely kind of struggling. Do you do you have any thoughts on how you might calm somebody who is losing touch with this moment?
Um, Brannick is thinking maybe he would. I mean, if he maybe something like an illusion, but he doesn't know what would calm the child. So, yeah,
Gotcha.
he's
So
not very
maybe
empathetic, so he probably can't really think of anything.
maybe the initial response to you trying to ask a serious question is that you're just going to find this little kid kind of like lost in repeating, help me bury my people, burying my family, burying everyone. And he just kind of like is going to slowly and very, I'm sure, awkward for Brennick, is going to start to just move closer to you before he is like trying to hug you and is basically latched on to your waist, kind of just hanging on to you in just kind of an awed state. But more or less is kind of like lost in this initial task. Um, any other thoughts about how to get this person kind of back to their senses as they're kind of racked from reality at the recognition that their entire tribe is dead in this camp?
Felix just kind of walks over to the boy and assures him that they're going to help him. Um, she then looks at Brennick and basically whispers, "Just don't move for right now. Me and Finn can get the bodies right now. Just let him basically do what he's doing." And then she kind of walks away over towards one of the bodies, and just as for Finn to come over to help move the bodies so that they can move into a proper area to bury them.
You'll see Brannick kind of like trying to suppress a grimace as like this kid comes to hug him, and he'll kind of like nod towards Felixus and kind of be like trying to look like stoic as this kid's, you know, like no idea what he's supposed to be doing to try to calm or comfort this child.
Fan will join Velixus and start arranging and digging graves for the bodies.
So, without a sense of a way to kind of calm or comfort the child, there's just going to be kind of an awkward time where you all do sort of assist in creating these snow burials for the different peoples of the tribe. It is going to seemingly be a pretty never ending task as you're going around this town and or around this little village of yurts and kind of finding more bodies than you thought before the last time. And each time it's just seemingly an endless supply of the dead here. Eventually, as a good bit of time kind of passes, as you guys start to get a sense that you're making headway, it's going to kind of get to a point where maybe as you all start to take a break and kind of try to take some things in, seemingly kind of opened up at least the nearest area is now clean of corpses, and you've started to form this little burial along those rocks to the north of you, leeward of the wind, so it's kind of slowly getting protected by the ice that will come off of the red glacier. There's going to come a point where eventually the child is able to start to recount that they are the wolf tribe. His name is Arix. It's kind of a weird one for me to say. Arix Vortgen, and he is the son. I'm I am the king of the wolf tribe. Arix Vortgon. Vorodoth. God, that's a weird. And he'll kind of look to the others as he kind of like stands a little bit taller. My family was attacked by members of the wolf tribe and slaughtered in the night. I hid, as my mother told me, while I heard everyone killed. And you're basically going to have this kid kind of recant this story of this camp got invaded by their own people, slowly hearing people killed. His mother, the queen of the tribe, his father, the tribe shaman, kind of held up inside of their tent here to the northwest. In the last kind of few moments of the battle, their tent was overtaken. They were kind of trapped inside as the others kind of like knocked the tent down around them, and him being buried in the snow, being walked on, and kind of keeping quiet is essentially the only reason that he was not found, as his parents were basically killed inside of their own home, kind of used as a net around them. This kid has all of the details in the most gruesome of ways, the most horrific of experiences, and as he is recounting them, his face is going to go stark white as you hear yelling through the wind. Aaron! Aaron! Apparently, the job was not finished. Aaron! And this voice is coming from the south of the camp.
Brannick's gonna look towards Velixis and Fen. Preservation. Protect the child. And he's gonna kind of move out to kind of be like trying to look into, just look out in the direction of wherever the voice was coming.
Effectively, that voice is coming from the south of you. So if you guys kind of look out, you're basically going to see as this figure is kind of walking into camp. As he notices Brennick, he's just going to kind of with a sly little smile, you see this massive figure. He has like a wolf kind of snarling over his head. Whereas he gets closer, you'll kind of see that that is his cloak. From this kind of distance, it's going to look as if there's a wolf kind of leaping off from his shoulders. But as he kind of approaches, you're going to see that he has these two long blades in each hand with kind of like a canted kind of twist at them. They are effectively for like fleshing massive creatures like whales. And he just has these kind of like flaying blades, and he's just kind of walking forward towards you, Brennick. You're not Ezra. I'm not here for you. Give me the child, and you may go. Auril can appreciate the death that I bring.
Sorry, go ahead, Rashad, without shot.
Remembering the sight that she came upon and just what she saw, Valissa kind of just writhes in kind of like a rage and anger and just curses at him after immediately preparing a fireball in her hand to throw at him if he continues to get closer.
If you are preparing a spell, you are casting that spell. If you are not preparing a spell, you are not casting it. Are you casting Fireball?
I am.
What is the impetus to you releasing it? What are you looking for as the trigger?
Like as soon as he gets close to this little camp tent that's right to his right, like if he gets right beside it, she's gonna throw the fireball at him.
Gotcha. So with this, I need you all to roll initiative. As Valixis starts to manipulate the weave, forming a ball of or a mote of fire within her hands. What are Fen and Brennick planning to do?
Yeah, so Brannick is almost like thinking of like he's immediately thoughts of like as he thinks of this child behind him, is even though he's not really the most empathetic guy, he's almost thinking of like the kid that they killed in the first trial. And he's like almost like looking at this guy and kind of projecting his rage onto him, and he's like, if you may end up sort of may end up be looking for us, but you found us. And he is uh, I think he is I think he's holding a no he is yeah, I think he's holding a fire bolt, with the same idea that if he moves closer, he'll unleash it.
Gotcha. And then Fen?
Yeah, Fen will pull his sword and I guess he will dodge, waiting to see which way the wind's blowing.
Oh, what did we get from Valixis for initiative?
I did roll a d20. It's a 17.
All right, so got you on the 20. So Ben, you are reacting first to Valixis starting to bring this mote of fire forward. Oh wait, my bad. What would you all like Valine to do?
Yeah, I feel like Valine at this point don't really know what's going on. So she's probably again following kind of Fenn's lead and just sort of waiting, dodging, being defensive as she waits to see kind of how this develops. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I was gonna say have her stick close to the child, to make sure, just in case any other enemies may be lurking nearby.
Just remember here, this is you can ask Valine to do stuff. If you ask Valine to stay next to the child and you soon find out Valine doesn't give any fucks about a child, You might remember that Valine was quite successful at the cruelty challenge. Valine is under your control as a team. It does not mean that Valine cares about the same things that you guys care about. Do you want to ask her to care for the child?
Valixis does turns toward Valin and asks her to care for the child and make sure he stays safe and protected.
Gotcha. So at present, Valine is effectively just kind of holding off with you all as well for a reaction here. I think we're just going to start it off with Fen. You kind of have the first option to react, I guess, to the situation. You all kind of took defensive reactions, and I'm tempted to cycle through that turn.
Yeah,
Are you sticking with that, Fen? Still dodge?
I think seeing them start to tap into the weave was going to wait until the fireworks went off before rushing in. So yeah, we're going to stick with holding, and I'll say hold an attack if something comes into his area.
And then Brennick, still just holding that firebolt.
Yeah, he was essentially called out the kind of the challenge that he was saying before. Like he may not have looked for us, but he found us. But otherwise, he's holding it in case he uh, continues approaching.
Valixis holding the fireball.
Yes.
Valine is going to kind of hold Irvation. Whew. You all are going to see as Valine and Eric's are going to disappear. She is going to begin to manipulate the weave. None of you have seen her casting this spell yet. This is something new that you've not yet experienced her kind of language and what she is doing. You might catch a glimpse as she kind of walks this final little circle around the child, and as a kind of purple water almost starts to glimmer down around her body, around the child, they're just going to disappear into just kind of the wisp of the blizzard. And at that last kind of like glimpse of these purple droplets, they kind of turn to silver as they touch the snow, and Valine's going to be gone. As this person walking forward towards you is kind of watching this happen, that is not acceptable. This was the only choice. And he is going to begin to run forward towards you all. I believe that is going to trigger Brennick and Valixis. Roll those attacks. I think an attack from Brennick, and then that will hit. And then the fireball damage from Valixis, 66. And your spell DC is 15? 14.
Is it 8d6 for fireball?
Oh, 8d6, yep. Um, let's see. And he will close right between Fen and Brennick. So Fen, you can take your attacks on him. Or wait, my bad. One reaction. It is a attack. That will hit. So we've got 12 from Brennick, 27 from the fireball, 39, 5 more, 40, 44. As he rushes forward into you all, you're going to see as his flesh just kind of like exerts out like a red glow as he is closing this distance to you. Oh, excellent. And he's going to kind of raise up his like flesh cleaving blades to the sky, and 2 slashes are going to go across Fen and 1 into Brennan. The first one at Fen, 14 hit. I think that's a miss. Second one at Fen should hit with a 25, and then one at Brennick should miss with an 11.
Yeah, the 25 hits.
That's really weird. Okay. Yeah, he's going to do 5 piercing damage to you. As he rakes this thing across you. And it's gonna go around to Finn.
Then will slash out with the sword and follow up with the unarmed strikes.
The sword attack's going to hit. The second unarmed strike will hit. That middle unarmed strike is just going to kind of get deflected to the side as he's bringing down one of his blades into you. He just kind of parries that one to the side.
That will activate Agile Parry, and that'll be end of turn.
That should take us to Brennick.
So as Brannick is kind of barely dodging this, this attack, he's already kind of raising his arms, and all of a sudden you'll see him kind of like clap his hands together all of a sudden, and like with an instant, kind of he'll like disappear and kind of leaving behind a little bit of a mist, and suddenly appear farther away as he casts Misty Step. And almost like as he's reappearing, he's also launching out a firebolt, another firebolt, kind of from his new position at this creature. Right, I can never remember. It's like if you cast a bonus action spell, you can still cast a cantrip, right? Never remember
Correct,
the
yeah.
timing on that. Okay, just
Yeah,
want to make sure.
if you're going to cast a bonus action spell, it's supposed to be before you cast, like, with your action. But yeah, once you cast a bonus action spell, you can only cast a cantrip.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did not know that.
It's one of the worst worded rules that they've ever possibly created. To just try to limit things that they won't just limit it in hard and clear language.
So just to verify, if I like throw out a fireball as a bonus action, I have to throw a firebolt afterwards.
That is correct.
I'll need to make sure I remember that.
Yeah, meta magic does not make it so you can cast 2 fireballs.
Broken.
So that firebolt is a solid hit. That will take us to Velixis.
She's actually going to cast suggestion on him and command him to throw one of his weapons away. I don't remember what the save is he needed for that.
What level are you casting it at?
Oh shit, my D&D Beyond just came out. Let me take a look at it.
Oh wait, it doesn't look like suggestion scales.
Okay, yeah, I don't think that, it doesn't scale. It's a level 2 spell. It's level 2, and I don't know where's if I'm trying to see what the save was he needs. It's
What's your normal DC? Yeah, I don't see any reason why he would not drop one of his weapons.
alright, and that's that bonus action. She is going to throw a firebolt at him.
Why? Suggestion is an action.
Okay, yes, it's an action. Oh, it's not. It doesn't count as just the doing the spell.
I don't know what you're saying here. The spell is an action.
Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to say. She got suggestion, and then she did the bonus action for a firebolt.
But a firebolt is not a bonus action.
Oh, okay. That's what I was confused about. Okay, all right. Then that's just gonna end her turn right there.
So here he is going to slash out at Velixis twice with the blade, and then swing a fist in to punch Fen with his offhand. Should hit Velixis with the first one. Should hit with the second one, and then Fen is going to be a big ol' miss. It is going to deal 5 and 4 slashing damage to you, or piercing damage to you, as he like stabs this mechanism like under your flesh and almost like rends away like the outer layer of your flesh. I need 2 Constitution saving throws from you. You need basically a 7 or better to pass. Roll 2d20 for me, please. One more. Gotcha. So you are able to maintain your concentration there. And then the from up above, you all are going to see as some of these vultures are swooping down into this battle. 2 of them are going to dive down and swoop into Fen. What do they have? 2 attacks. So the first one is a beak, second one is its talons. Those will miss. The second one flying down to grasp onto you. It's going to miss with its beak. It will grasp into you with its talons, and it is going to deal 19 piercing damage to you, Fen. And then these 2 are coming at Brannick. Should miss with a beak. Talon miss. Beak. 18 hits you.
Yeah, if I can shield that, I'll shield that.
You can most certainly react. And then Beak and Talon, I believe your magic will protect you, and it's going to come around to Fen. You have the wolf tribe, the wolfman ahead of you, 2 vultures coming at you from behind and above. What would you like to do?
So Fen is going to try to attempt a stunning strike to the adversary to the west of me.
Gotcha, the wolfman.
The Wolfman. A 17 will hit. I'm assuming. And then I'm applying stunning strike to that.
17 is indeed a solid hit. I think you have a pretty solid understanding, at least Fen does. I think you already missed his AC, like right on. I think you hit that 14 with the one I said, like he parried away. 14 is the miss, 15 is a hit.
Gotcha.
I usually try to describe when you're right at their AC with something that tells you, like, you almost got some meat there. What is your wisdom save at these days? You are 15? No.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
Fen is 15.
DC 15.
You're going to see as for a moment his flesh kind of starts to like stiffen in the ice. And as you start to feel that sensation where you're flowing your key through this person and watching as they seize up and they're under your will, you're going to see as this person just kind of shakes it off with a smile. And as they flex, their muscles are going to kind of break loose of your control. And you're going to watch this red glow kind of fluctuate through their body. And he's going to look to you. What else would you like to do here?
So seeing that, he is going to slash out with a sword.
Wait, I thought the first attack was the sword. Okay, that was an unarmed strike first.
Yeah, yeah. I did the unarmed strike first. So that'll
Sword
be
will hit as well for 12 more.
correct.
Stunning strike.
No, it doesn't seem to. work, so I'm going to apply.
Why do you think it doesn't seem to work? You make a habit of, if you don't stun somebody on their first attack, you assume it doesn't work. Sometimes I just save. That guy just used a legendary resistance.
Okay, I got you.
Just because you fail doesn't mean somebody can't be stunned. Sometimes people just don't get stunned.
Gotcha. I'm going to apply Death Strike to that one though.
Gotcha. Death Strike is the extra D8.
Yes. And then I'm going to unarmed strike the one that's due east. No, I'm going to unarmed strike the Wolfman again and try to apply stunning strike to that if it hits.
Where'd he say?
Yeah, I'm going to apply.
16 does indeed hit, so you're going to do Stunning Strike again.
Yep.
And once again, he's just kind of flexing his muscles to reduce and resist your influx of ki into his system.
That'll activate Agile Parry and end a turn.
And Brennick, you've got 2 vultures on you at present. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and also just
my apologies real quickly. This is going to be the first time that, though he is fighting off to resist the influences of Fen, you can start to see some of these points where Fen is like punched in and like applied like the 5-finger death punch. This man has like severe bruising on his flesh where it's almost starting to like ooze out of like these blunt force traumas. He is bloody. My bad there, Justin.
No, I just wanted to clarify too for Rashad. Like the reason I was asking about the timing with Misty Sebs, that's specifically a bonus action spell. So that's why I can cast that plus a cantrip. You can never cast 2 actual spells as actions. Just wanted to clarify that real quick. But yeah, so Brannick kind of finding himself under attack by hopefully one of these creatures is going to kind of, you know, as he holds up the shield and manages to dodge some out, he's going to throw up his hands and he's going to cast a magic missile. See a few darts fly into the thing right to his south. He's going to cast a 1st level magic missile at the vulture coming at him from the south.
Doing 10 points of damage, just dink, 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 right into this creature. It's going to seem wounded. It is not bloodied from that single attack, but it is definitely wounded. Assuming there's nothing else from you, yeah, you can obviously move. We'll go to Velixis.
Alexis, send the birds and send that learn attack by more than just one creature. She's gonna cast a fireball at the guy in front of her and aim to hit the birds as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like you can probably drop that fireball. You might be able to get 3 birds, but I'm pretty sure you can max out at the Wolfman and the 2 birds to the east of Fen. But you can roll that damage when you are ready.
Let me see where I can place it at.
Can you get all 4? I think you can. Move it north a little. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
So one vulture passed. It'll be the top one. Any movement from Velixis?
She's gonna take a step back.
He is going to reach out with one of the carvers and try to gain your flesh. Ooh, double crit. Too bad that doesn't actually do anything. As you step away, you are going to take solid 5 piercing damage as he reaches out to flesh you. Any other movement? Otherwise, it's gonna go to the wolf man.
I'm not as idiot for her.
Oh wait, con save as well for that damage there. Um,
I did have to roll it twice, right?
no, just one. The first time it was twice because it hit you with 2 attacks. He is. Ooh. I think he is going to leap away from Fen. Would you like to react as he leaves? Solid hit, 6 more damage. He is going to leap across and at Brennick, bringing down all 3 attacks onto Brennick with the sickle. What is that, a 17 to hit shield?
I will shield, yes.
The crit he will hit you with the sickle, and then this is going to be a punch. Will miss. So he is going to hit you. Solid. Those crits are really paying off there. 5 piercing damage. Actually, my bad. You are going to get fully fleshed by this thing, and 33 more piercing damage. As he stabs this sickle into your back, he is going to clean the flesh off of you. And you'll take a total of. Are you concentrating on anything right now?
No, but if that's the damage, he's gonna go down.
Takes you down there. But
You
still
you said 30. You said 33, right?
Yeah, 33 more because of how things played out there.
Yeah, he's down but not dead. Yeah.
Gotcha. So he is going to leap across and take out Brannick. And as he kind of fleshes all of the meat off of the back of Brennick, and he's just kind of holding up this chunk of your friend. I'm sorry if that's too graphic. We can skip over this. That's where the cards are at. If anybody would ever care to tell me to skip something gory. But he is basically going to flesh Brennick as he says, "Your friend for Eric's. Give me the child." And the remaining vulture is going to attack Velixis. Beak attack should hit. Claw attack should miss. The beak is for, I think, 6 damage. And another con save from Velixis. It will go around to Fen.
Ben is going to move around and attack Wolfman.
Are you trying to like move around that vulture, or was that just like a phrase?
No, I'm gonna. I mean, he's still within.
No, but like, can you draw a little line where you just moved your character? Did you move like northeast of where the vulture is? When you walk there, you are going to smack into an invisible wall. You have to walk underneath that vulture. There is something in front of you, and you cannot move through it.
Okay. So I make it here, and then I'm stopped by the wall.
Vaguely right about there is where you're going to smack into something.
All right. So when I hit the barrier, I'm going to. I'm going to change my tactic and attack the vulture.
Gotcha. I feel like go kind of individually. Well, yeah, you can. Um, the vulture's wounded but not bloody. So you can kind of hedge your bets how much you want to attack the vulture. How many attacks are you sinking into this? Is this like the single mind of this turn? Is you want to kill this vulture?
Yeah. So I'm going to.
Any key expenditure?
Yeah, I'm going to flurry of blows just to.
Gotcha. So at some point during that flurry of blows, you are going to destroy this vulture, bringing it low to the ground. It is going to die off here. Otherwise, that will effectively be the end of your turn. You still have movement if you would like to move it, but that'll be kind of your action economy. And it will go to Brennick for a death saving throw. Excellent.
Yeah,
It will
I'm
go
gonna
to
move and put myself in between Wolfman and Velixis.
Gotcha. And it will go to Velixis here as Fen steps between. Did you apply your agility thing? Do you have, what is it, like 20 AC right now?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What would you like to do, Velixis? No more vultures around. It is just this bloodied wolf man. Fen is between you. The body of Brennick is off to the northwest.
So she is going to throw another fireball, but she's going to position it off to her left a bit. How about there?
Gotcha.
And she's going to prevent from hitting her friends.
I don't assume the evocation spell has anything limiting you from not hurting Brennick while Brennick is not technically alive. So I assume that it is perfectly safe for Brennick here. Roll the damage and oh, that was good damage. I think 30 damage. So 17. Despite kind of shielding themselves with like the hide of the wolf, kind of taking the brunt of the explosion as that little mote of fire starts to form. They just kind of look a little bit to the right while they're slashing into the flesh of Brennick, and the wolf is pretty well kind of burnt, hairs like singed away from it. This man is not only bloodied, he is severely wounded, and he is kind of holding on for that last little bit. Anything else from you here, Vilixis? Any movement?
Nah, she's gonna stay where she's at.
All right. I think we are going for 1, 2, Brennick. 3 through 7 will be Fen. 8 through 12 will be Velixis. I think that's 2, 5, 5. I think that was the second person. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so that should be Fen. He is going to slash into Fen. The first attack should hit. Second attack should miss. And his unarmed strike is going to crit. It's got no reason to have any die with his crits, so I don't think it does anything at all. Maybe +1. So he'll do 5 damage, bludgeoning to you, Fen. And then the slash with the bladed weapon is going to deal, what is that, 10 piercing. So 15 total to you, Fen. And it's going to go back around to you. Your prey is severely wounded. Your friend is bleeding out on the ground. What would Fen like to do here?
So Fen is going to unleash with everything he's got, sword strike, and is going to apply death strike to that if it hits.
I don't think you have any reason for an advantage. That is a miss. Same idea. That's just inside of his, just kind of parrying it away. That one will hit. Can you only death strike the longsword? Okay, you can death strike that. 10 damage. Doing anything else to that, or are you just going for that kind of 5-finger death punch right there?
Then I'm going to flurry of blows for 2 more unarmed strikes.
Gotcha. So you're just going to start to cave in this person's chest as you're just like punching directly through them as they're basically dying on their feet and slowly crumbling to their knees. We are going to go to Brennick for a death saving throw, and then it's going to Velixis. The immediate threat ahead has been dispatched. Your friend is on the ground. What would you like to do, Velixis?
She is going to attempt to finish him off and throw one more fireball at him. Right? She is trying.
You're saying that he is dead, right? I mean, you are welcome to fireball him.
Oh
But
no!
then just like
That part. I heard everything else but the he's dead part.
yeah, Fen basically just spent like 9 million punches directly through this guy's caved-in chest.
Oh, okay. Nah, if he okay, my bad. I missed that part where he died. So I'm running over to Breddick to try to stabilize him.
And if you don't want to have done something so gory, that's fine. But that was definitely also overkill. Was kind of what I was getting at.
All right. I was pissed off.
It works pretty good. He's a pretty sweet character to do some shitty things too. So you're running over to Brennick to do a medicine check. You're inside a D20. You can roll that medicine. You need a 7 or greater, I think, to stabilize him.
Can I help?
Not right now, because this is effectively right after you killed the guy. Technically, the Wolfman is still like falling to the ground, kind of thing. So yeah, Velixis is over. Did she do anything? Velixis is over by Brennick as this guy's body is dropping to the ground. Yeah, this is kind of the end of it. You're going to see just in kind of a moment, Valine is going to appear, just kind of stepping out of nowhere beside you to the entrance of that little or the large hut. And when she kind of like steps into the open, you will see that the child is like just behind her and kind of just seems standing there with like a horrified face. And Valine is just kind of standing there looking at your friend. Uh, this is how perhaps he wanted to die. In the best of adventures. And then it will go over to Fen. What would you like to hear?
I'm going to go over and try to assist Felixus.
Gotcha. So you can move over to him, going for a medicine check, try to stabilize him. Clearly noticing as soon as you get near him, Brennick is breathing quite well. He is holding on perfectly fine. It is far too early to say that this person is dead. He lived a good life. Gotta wonder if Brennick sees like a different future where he's like standing right next to his body, like watching Valine say, "Oh yeah, he's dead. We should just move on." So you could stabilize him. Brennick was never in any danger of actual like death there. You could see that his unconscious body was already kind of like in this process of like naturally healing. Um, but you are able to staunch those wounds, and you and Velixis can help him. As far as things go here, I think, yeah. I'm gonna say on a weird level here, let's consider this as a one hit point where Brennick is going to immediately come back with a little bit of health. Um, and you'll kind of see as you come to Brennick, you've got Velixis and Fen right next to you, kind of leaned over you, taking care of you. The little boy Erix is kind of running to your side, and Valine is just kind of standing over all of you, just kind of like looking down, kind of nonchalantly. What is Brennick thinking as he comes to?
Yeah, I'm thinking like as Felixis ran over to like try to help, like it almost like she like puts her hands on it, and all of a sudden blood starts spurting up. It's like, oh shit, I made it worse. But eventually, yeah, they he comes to.
I've thought about doing that, but I also thought it would be really, really cruel if somebody else's role was the role that killed your character. That's why I don't even like to roll death saves for people, because it just feels like the death save more than everything should be your role to say if that's the die that kills you. Sorry.
You know, I saw that like that nat one, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, I love the mechanic of making nat ones matter. Actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break here. I'd like to step away for a moment. Let's come back at 5:30. But yeah, I love the idea of making ones matter. It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, you know that like the critical fumble where you can potentially hit your friends. It's like you've got to roll in that one, and then you have to roll to hit them. And we killed off Larry that one day. Like, it was an epic part of that campaign. But for a lot of people to have somebody else kill you does not like make a good situation. But I feel like that was one of those things that bonded that group together, where you're like what was it? You were shooting your bow like over him, like Nat 1, back of the neck.
I don't even
Yeah,
think it was
yeah.
any of us. It was that one guy who joined us that day.
Well, no. This one in particular was in the Sunday campaign with Justin. Like
Uh,
early on when Justin joined me, I had Nat 1s meant that like if you roll and crits and crit fails are only for roll state. Skill challenges really should never be a Nat 1 matter. It only happens like that with death saves, which is kind of weird. And I thought about making it for medicine checks for that reason, because crit 1s and crit 20s matter with death saves. I thought it would make sense with medicine checks. But the situation we're talking about was like Justin rolled a nat 1 to shoot his bow at this eagle or this hawk, and then because he crit failed, I make you roll another d20 to hit the person who's like in line, which is the cleric. Okay, sweet, no problem. He's wearing 18 AC worth of armor. There should be no chance that he's gonna hit him. And I feel like Justin like then rolled the 20. So he basically crit failed, crit successed, and did, whatever, 2d6 plus 4 damage to their cleric at level 2, dropping him to the ground, and I think that ended up getting him killed because of like what those eagles were. Absolutely hilarious shit. But
Yeah. Yeah. And then Larry's character ended up returning the favor later on, and I think dropping me with a
that
similar
was like the end of
kind of
the
idea.
campaign, right? Or was it
I
that
mean,
same fight? That
it might
same
have actually
fight,
might
I
have
feel
actually been
like.
the same fight. Yeah, because that was the end. Yeah, that was the end. That I'll never forget that fight with the Bloodhawks. It ended.
Oh,
Um,
it was so epic. That's why I love low level fights. You guys have so little invested in your character, but you do care. You don't want them to die. And it's like such a stupid, deadly foe, something that gets advantage. That's all they are, is effectively creatures that are flanking. They're little kobolds, but with wings.
yeah, I feel like either maybe he stabbed me first, or we definitely stabbed each other at some point during that fight. It just made a whole bad situation much worse.
Yeah. The biggest argument against crit fail tables, though, are that melee characters get better at this game and become more likely to roll ones. It's one of the best arguments and one of the worst arguments, because crit fail tables are indeed so much fun to play with. But like a fighter at level 20 can attack like fucking like 19 or 13 times in a turn. So if you're rolling 13 d20s, you basically are now at like a 65% chance that every turn you're going to roll a crit fumble and miserably fail. I'm an expert fighter. Why would I crit fail once every 6 seconds? Um,
Yeah,
but it is pretty funny because also that's a fighter who's attacking 13 times with their sword in 6 seconds. They're pretty fucking fast. Failing at it doesn't seem too surprising at that speed.
Imagine
yeah,
failing
yeah,
all 13.
Well, and then that's one of the other things is when you start to actually stack up the random times that shit happens, like in the worst possible way. I've seen a guy who rolled it was a rogue who rolled 6 nat 1s on stealth checks in a row. Did one other check and was successful, and then rolled another fail. So it was 7 out of 8 d20 were all ones. That's kind of like the longest like streak of ones I've ever seen. But I mean, like, I rolled that crit on Rashad earlier, and I'm like, I just want to see another 20, and it was a crit. Sometimes it's just funny to watch the ones and the 20s like roll.
yeah. I mean, I imagine if you wanted to use like a critical hit, critical fumble table, you almost have to scale it to the level, and that would almost be probably more trouble than it's worth. So, like at level one, a critical fail could actually like really be a setback. But then, like as you gain levels, maybe either it becomes like okay, you roll a one, but then maybe there's only a after that there's only a 1 in 2 chance or 1 in 5 chance of something actually really bad happening, and then it kind of gets a little too crunchy.
Yeah, exactly. The problem with doing stuff like that ends up being like, how much crunch do you want to add into the game when part of what makes 5th edition great is it got rid of the 4th edition crunch. Um, but it's definitely one of those things where it's either you kind of, in my opinion, come to the conclusion you either play it up to level 5 and then get rid of it, or you have to end up with too much crunch because, yeah, I agree. There needs to be some way of kind of getting rid of it. Otherwise, you start to apply so many extra dice rolls to try to put some safety behind it. Um, it's just one of those things where I think it like the agreement that you're going to play a grim dark setting, it kind of makes it more fun to have stuff like that are severe negatives, but part of what you're going for is almost like the stupid overly deadly aspect of it.
Yeah, and that, like, if you know from from the start that, like, oh, this fighter wielding the sword around might cut your leg off, then you, especially as like a wizard or something, like, you stay well away because you do not want to get anywhere within 5 feet of that guy.
That's a big part that I like about it. It tells you the danger of getting into hand-to-hand melee isn't simply casting or ranged weapon attacks are more difficult. It's the fact that once you're in a melee, everybody in that melee could at any given time hit other people in that melee. And it's the same way as if you're an archer, if you're taking shots at the person, if you're trying to assist somebody who's fighting your target, there's just, well, not just as much, but there is a chance that you will hit your own friendly target. Versus if you're not assisting your friend, there's no chance. So that to me, I like the realism of it's like you can do the smart by the numbers thing and assist, but you risk hurting your friend, or you can do the smart about never hurting your friend, but you're always playing against the numbers where you're attacking multiple targets instead of grouping up to take down and reduce. Like those buzzards, it basically says once you kill those 2 buzzards, the buzzards flee. And that's one of the funny things where it's like, all right, killing 2 buzzards isn't necessarily crazy, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to start off by attacking 2 different buzzards. If you attack 1 buzzard and you like focus on that, it might be a turn or 2 before you actually kill 2 buzzards. I don't know. Things like that vary. It definitely is fun to kind of play around with.
Yeah, and I've always thought, like, it's like the idea of, like, you potentially hitting your companions in combat. That makes sense, like, but then, like, the likelihood would reduce, like, at higher levels, so that, like, as you've been traveling together, you kind of learn your companions kind of fighting styles and kind of thing like that. So, like, if you're an archer, for example, like, low level, you have no idea that this guy's going to go in and, like, go this way. And then so, but then, like, once you hit, like, what level 5 or whatever, then it's like, okay, I've seen this guy fight enough. I kind of can, uh, you know, anticipate his moves. And, I don't know how you do that, like, in the, mechanically, but that's kind of the idea I think of. Like, as you get, as you travel more, experience more as a party, you become less likely to kind of get in each other's way.
And that's part of where you can like over flood things with crunch, because I like the idea that you make the choice to attack, have a chance to fail. If you fail, you have a chance to hit them. Maybe the crunch and safety is that they then get a saving throw that they can avoid your attack, and you start to just layer on all of these actions that start to like happen in order. And that's exactly what killed like 3rd and 4th edition, or 4th edition. 4th edition like brought like Magic the Gathering's like stack into the game, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna cast Fireball. Cool, I'm counter spelling that. All right, I'm gonna counter spell that. All right, well, I'm gonna this. And then all of a sudden you've got like 9 built up actions where it's like, all right, I cast Bless. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna cast Disenchant. and then the counterspell goes off. The counterspell is your counterspell, and then I'm counterspelled by this guy, so the fireball goes off, and it's like, dude, the stack should have never belonged in this game.
Yeah, it's something that probably would work better in like a video game where that can all happen behind the scenes. Because I've thought about like doing it like, maybe like, if you did want to make it a chance to hit the somebody, but then it depends on your level, then make it like subtract this proficiency bonus from the attack roll or blah blah blah. But then, like you said, it just gets into way too much like, too much dice rolling and too much delay and all that.
It's creating like a mini game about how to play like such a silly little like aspect. But one of the things I think that's a lost argument for a lot of people is that 4th edition was meant to go along with their own digital supplement, which is kind of part of why I'm excited about them acquiring D&D Beyond, is that part of 4th edition was assuming that the crunch was going to happen via like an algorithm or a computer, and no longer pen and paper levels of you have to actually decide to do and calculate these things. But who knows? Hopefully, Wizards of the Coast having a virtual tabletop is in the books, and part of that would be being far closer to having all of those aspects just automated, and it's just a part of the actual the system. Because you could almost create a stack based on like the initiative system as if it's like a second initiative system, and the stack could be so much simplified by just having its own like initiative counter like that on the side. But that's very random. That's like hopeful of what it means that they bought D&D Beyond.
I'm back.
Excellent. Rashad, you here right now?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
So we are essentially picking up kind of in that moment where Brannick is coming to, Valine is stepping out of kind of this ethereal area. The child is revealed behind you all. You all probably have like a moment to kind of react as Brannick's kind of coming to. What sort of immediate thoughts do you all have as you're winding down this assault by the man of the wolf tribe?
Felix actually walks over toward after Brendan comes through. She goes over towards the wolf guy and picks up the pelt that he had around him and put it over her shoulder. She essentially just takes his wolf cloak.
All right, the last fireball you did, I said it burnt off all the fur, so keep in
That's
mind
right.
that's
That's
slightly
right.
more wolf.
Did the head of it survive though? Like the head part of it, or is the fur gone off of that too?
I mean, it's still a wolf pelt. It's just slightly more bald. That's all I was getting at.
Oh, that's fine. She's still taking it.
So it's like Brannick comes to, he's kind of like looking around, it's like, is the boy safe? Still thinking like his initial thought of enervation was wrong when they came here. It was like, oh, preservation, protect the kid.
If you mutter preservation, Valine is going to just kind of nod to you. Preservation. He is safe. And he'll probably already be kind of stammering, stomping over to you. Stammering is the wrong word, but making his way over to you to kind of thank you. And certainly have like a kind of surprise aspect that coming to from a deathly state and your first thought is Eric's goes over well on this little boy.
So like seeing that, he'll, Brannick seeing the child will kind of like almost like breathe a sigh of relief and stand up. Like doesn't seem very actually concerned about the child. It's more like the child was almost like in order to protect himself, he needed to protect the child, kind of thing. But he will, he'll kind of stand shakily to his feet and kind of looking towards like Feline and Velixis and Fen and kind of nod.
So while you all are kind of making this moment of recognition, starting to have these first moments where the endorphins are kind of cleaning out of your system and you're starting to approach a level of calm and not simply like this high alert level, there is going to be a small wolf that starts to very slowly pad its way from the southwest, and as it kind of becomes visible to you all, its initial kind of recognition, as you all kind of lock eyes, will be the wolf saying to you in common, Erix, you've done well, my boy. If you are ready, I can bear you to your father's tribe, where you will be king once again. After a moment, Eric's will kind of stand, stepping a little bit away from Brennick, kind of looking to you, kind of looking down, like assuming you're kind of still resting a bit. And he'll start to thank each and every one of you, going around in a circle, before approaching the wolf and just kind of, I don't know, they might pass on like a quick little conversation, but effectively he'll kind of find out that the wolf is going to take him to his father's uh, old kind of family camp. Effectively, the wolf tribe works as a matriarchy kind of thing, where the father, when he gets married, goes to the wife's camp. So he's going to find essentially like a lost aspect of his family that he's never known, that the wolf will escort him to. Um, Kind of a short conversation before the kid feels safe enough and is going to climb on the wolf's back. And if nobody ends up discussing too much with them, they are going to ride off into the blizzard. And when they disappear into the blizzard, all of you are going to lose your sight as the wind and the snow and the ice whip around you. And all of a sudden, you are going to find yourselves back inside of Grimskull.
Yeah, I think Brannick would have been like initially hesitant when the wolf appeared, but then like after seeing the conversation between them and such, would have eventually okay. Still kind of very, very kind of shaky on his feet. Um, looking towards Alexis, like save the child. Are you happy?
She reaches her hand out and says, "Yes, I am very happy."
And Brannick gives almost like a dismissive nod, and starts heading back towards the main chamber.
So I think once you all kind of start to head back out there and eventually get near the ice, you will once again see this giant walrus just kind of casually skating around this ice. And as it notices you all coming out of Airvation, it's going to skate over to you all and kind of looking to you, counts you all. Another success? You've displayed Airvation? and it kind of looks to you excitedly.
We have, I think.
Oh, well, I feel like you guys have said you came for the codicil. I did not write down something that seems so kind of basic to me. Um, so its next thought is going to be, well, then you'll be wanting the vault, the codicil. I'm not sure anyone has ever entered there. And it's going to look to the south as it says there.
That was the impetus for our passing your tests, or Aural's tests, I should say.
So as you approach that kind of central corridor to the south of you, you are once again going to see two frost giants. As you guys approach a little bit closer, once again, you'll see that as the light shines across them, they are not live giants that are standing guard. These are once again statues that kind of rest in that position. They are effectively bas reliefs where they're like 6 to 8 inches of stone that kind of comes off of the wall and more or less seems to be about 20-foot tall giants that stand there. There's a door between them. And yeah, I think there are heads in the wall, kind of made of ice, that are kind of glowing over the archway, where you see an owl, a wolf, and a goat.
And do we see any sort of Braddock's going to look for any sort of like writing or runes on either of the sorry, either of the giants?
I don't believe there is any more writing. These are essentially like the other ones. I believe those were bare as well.
So Braddock will turn to the others and, well, we are about to see a god. Suppose we should be on our best behavior. But he will then kind of move towards the door, almost kind of looking at Fen, thinking, yeah, uh, it was needed for both of them to kind of push the doors open for the other ones.
So when you step between these statues, you're going to hear a voice that kind of echoes through this hall. The way is shut to all but those who pass the tests of cruelty, endurance, isolation, and preservation.
Believe we have. Sorry, is this a voice out loud or is it in Braddock?
Yeah, that's like out loud, like echoed through this entire area. Everybody would have heard that. You just have kind of a recognition that like stepping up to that door is on some level like what caused it to happen.
Gotcha. So I think Brennick would kind of call out, like, "Have we not passed your tests?" Almost like exasperated.
In retrospect, I think you're the only one who passed all four, Brannick. But I suppose it would depend on what passing means. Only one way to find out.
Getting Brannick's help, pushing open the door.
Yes.
Yes, assuming like Brannick didn't get a response to that call, like he would kind of looking towards Fen, like I don't think I passed the one, but we've passed, all four. And yeah.
Yelling out into the void, you're going to very quickly feel a little bit weird when there is not a response. That this is not a conversation. By then, you'll definitely recognize there was some trigger of you stepping between those statues that basically created this magical voice that was effectively waiting for that. I think at this level, there's a wizard spell that you guys would recognize is a way to leave messages. I think offhand it's called Magical Voice or Magical
Magic
Mouth.
Magic Mouth, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do a check for with Brannick if you think he might not know that.
No. In the long run, super basic stuff like that, I feel like that's very high utility spell for a wizard who never leaves a library. I don't think that's a kind of spell that you're not going to know about. Um, I think that's the kind of spell that you meet a wizard and you're like, oh, cool, you're a researcher. It's kind of a way to leave messages, kind of thing. I don't think it's surprising. As you all open up into this next room, this one as well as some of the others is kind of this like bean shape, kind of takes on very similar properties to some of these other rooms where you walk into an entrance area, it funnels you down a little bit closer before it widens out into this larger area. But instead of finding two sconces that are burning on these tripods, these flames, you are going to find, believe this is a 4 pedestals that are each along the corners. They're all kind of like framed in glass and gold, and there's just a pedestal of ice that's kind of just a clean, flat surface. Um, and if you guys go around and explore, you'll very quickly see that there is a tablet of cruelty, a tablet of endurance, a tablet of isolation, and a tablet of preservation. If you want to look a little bit closer at any of them, it takes a little bit more effort than simply like that walking past it kind of thing.
Yeah, Brannick would move towards probably like the tablet of cruelty first and try to see are there any names inscribed or anything like that.
So as you go to cruelty, again, you see very quickly that like the top of this uh, tablet has inscribed cruelty in it. I think in common. Yeah, in common. Um, you'll see below that there is some script. But when you are very quickly searching for it, you see cruelty, that script, a bunch of names, and at the bottom of this list, you are going to see two names that are quite familiar to you. Ooh, shit. You're going to see the name Nass Lantimer and Brennick.
So Brannick will almost kind of like then he wonders Colleen's name.
Roll a D100 for me. So what are Fen and Velixis doing as you all head inside of there? As well, you know, at Brennick, when you get close enough to look at it that closely, by the time you can see your name, you're probably close enough. Do you touch it?
I feel like he like kind of like puts his finger like close to like kind of read depending on how like big the script is. But I think at the end he'll almost kind of like reach out and touch like where his own name appears. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I don't know how particular to make it being close to virtually actually touching it. I think at some point you'll feel maybe a little bit of kind of like a static pull, a little bit of a pull from the weave, and perhaps you start to feel the actually magic that is starting to emanate between the two of you. But for what it is worth, as you are getting close to it, and sometime close to when you go to touch it, this whole damn, I keep going for a different name. Obelisk comes to mind here, but like tablet slash like a podium almost, because they're kind of podiums like pushed up against the wall there, is going to slightly start to glow with a blue, and you're going to see as this like whitish blue quicksilver kind of starts to flow through all of the script, starting from cruelty, and then you're going to see as it outlines the words of compassion makes you vulnerable. Let cruelty be the knife that keeps your enemies at bay. And then there's going to be a list of names before you see Nass and Brennick at the bottom. Um, the name Brennick is going to light up as you touch it. Over the
Sorry. Sorry. Could you just repeat what the language that showed up? Cruelty.
Gotcha. When you go and look at it closer, that's the script that I was basically saying you kind of just overlooked because you were specifically saying you were looking for your name. But when you touch it, cruelty lights up, and then that line, compassion makes you vulnerable. Let cruelty be the knife that keeps your enemies at bay, will light up, and then this quicksilver kind of floats down through Brennick as well. So those three parts will light up. The other names do not have the quicksilver, kind of that bluish white, like liquid flow through it. Um, but eventually, while you're over there, Valine will walk up beside you, and as she touches down on the obelisk as well, she'll kind of look to it, kind of muttering it, and she'll just say out loud, Valine and Brannick, we have been successful. And she's going to look to you.
Brannick will kind of be looking towards Valine, almost like cocking his head. He's still, letting her name appear with Nass. Yes. Valine and Brannick. But he's very clearly kind of being doubtful and almost kind of like backing away a little bit.
Valine will look over to the northeast and kind of with a shrug, she's going to move to the south. And as she moves over it, she's going to look down and preservation. And as she touches it, you're going to see that same glow start to go through it. And she's going to read out loud, every flake of snow is unique. And that which is unique must be preserved. And then she's going to say out loud, Valine, as the name starts to glow.
Brannick's gonna move towards the closest one, so to the northeast of him, and similarly searching for names, mostly his own. Or sorry, which first he'll try to check what the northeast one is. I think that was isolation.
Northeast, you are going to find is preservation.
So he will similarly search for names. See, try to see which ones show up that he can see.
Touching it, or are you just looking for names now?
Yeah, he will go ahead and touch it. Yeah.
So when you light it up, you will see as this one does indeed. Did I tell you endurance for the Northeast? My bad. It should be cruelty is Northwest, endurance is Northeast, isolation is Southeast, and then preservation is Southwest. If I didn't say that right, I'm sorry, I got confused. But I think you're at Northeast, which should be endurance. When you touch it, I believe you endured.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess the reason I was like cruelty. Yeah, it was Brannick and Valine, and then
I think you passed all of them. I think I have you listed for all of them.
Just isolation. He blanked out.
yeah, isolation was the only one I didn't pass.
If I recall, technically isolation, I think everybody passes as long as you try, basically. As long as one person is successful, I'm pretty sure isolation said everybody passes. But I have Brennick written down as passing that. I have Fen, Valine, and Brennick as passing isolation. I'm pretty sure that means it was simply anybody who went in. Felixus basically failed by not going into it.
Right.
Because they all have different pass fail things. But yeah, I think when you go over to damn it, I still confuse myself. Endurance. You're going to see very quickly at the top, endurance is kind of like the big bold script. You'll see towards the bottom of it, perhaps inside of the other names, you would see that Fen and Brennick are the most two recent ones. If you touch it, it will be the similar effect. If you decide not to touch it, you can still read the script that is there as well.
And is Nas's name there as well?
Not on that one. That one, the only ones that you recognize are going to be Brennick and Fen. You would pretty quickly catch that Valine and Valixis kind of disappeared at about the same time in that 13th hour of the march.
But the second, well, oh no, Valine was the only one who checked the second one. She read it out. I think Brannick will move towards the fourth one and try and do a similar check. Again, touching it, trying to see what names appear.
Wait, again touching it. Did you touch endurance? Or did you touch preservation? God damn it. Endurance.
Sorry, the third one. So the northeast, yes.
Endurance.
So I think it was Valine was the only one who moved to the southwest one, and she read it, and then after Brennick,
she had that little bit of hesitation looking to the northeast. Part of what I was getting at there is Valine already recognized that the northeast might be the one that she cannot activate. By the time you're finishing up with the northeast, she might already be moving to the southeast and activating isolation. And by that time, all four of these scripts will be lit up, where the name is lit in this blue quicksilver, as well as the little script, and then the name of the person who touched it. So perhaps you had like Valine follow through on one, but effectively right now they probably say Brennick on the northwest, Nass on the southwest, Brennick on the northeast, and then Nass on the southeast.
Okay, but Brennick, I don't think saw the name Nass, right? On
Well, you
the
saw
on
it on the
this.
first one.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, you
Bring it.
caught that on the first one. So you already know that there is indeed something up with the situation you all are in.
Yeah, so Brennick's gonna kind of he's gonna look towards Velixis and Fen, and then towards Valine, and now he's thinking of like the kind of the split personality kind of thing that happened to her, and um, wary of that one. She may not be what she seems uh, to Velixis and Valine, and kind of looking at or to Velixis and Fen, I should say, um, and kind of looking very kind of almost like cockeyed at Valine here.
So, with the fourth of these tablets being activated, Valine is going to be stepping towards the door to the south, and she's going to reach out to push the door open.
Hold there, Nuss. Brannick hoping to see a reaction.
Couldn't keep well enough alone, but it's too late. The codicil is mine. Join me, serve me, and we can enjoy the spoils of what we search for. You've proved yourself useful. Don't make this your end. So, if I believe you guys are all bloodied right now,
Yeah.
and she just took the last fight off, guys. She just disappeared and left you guys to fight that guy all alone. You guys might recognize who this is, but she knows exactly the position she is in, and you guys are set up to help her. And she
Yeah,
kind of
Brannick.
puts that on the floor right before you, and she's like, "Enter with me as friends, or we will have to settle this in a way that will not work out for any of you. The lien is mine."
Yeah, I mean Brannick is barely standing, and he's kind of like he's upset that he's kind of been had, but he's like thinking through the situation and being like almost like kind of like well played. And he will kind of almost give a small nod, almost in like um not acknowledgement, but almost like capitulation, and start to move towards the gate.
So, still kind of looking over her shoulder, she's just going to, with one hand, start to push this door open, and she is going to step through. She's not making any effort to like force the door closed behind you. She is not locking you out, but she is definitely taking the lead at this point as things become a little bit more clear as to what the current situation is. As you all kind of see the first kind of views of light coming through from this next room. There is another chamber of ice. There is a small kind of like desk kind of lectern um, in this central area that is kind of facing forward to the door to the south. There are two very kind of finely dressed women in bas relief that are statues up against that southern door that flank both sides of those ice doors. Each of this is one of those kind of, it's like very gossamer kind of Greek. You can see her body underneath these extremely fine like clothes that drape over her body through the stone. This is like the height of kind of Greek kind of sculpture. These females are very clearly more giant than they are human. You can pretty well see, like in their faces and some of the actual kind of proportions of their limbs, that despite being quite beautiful, kind of generic females, that they still have giantess qualities. But more or less, as you all step into this room, you see this lectern. You see these two women who are standing over top, and on top of this lectern, there's a small white book that sits in the center of it, and Valine is going to reach out for it and place her hand on it. If nobody goes to stop her in this final moment, you are going to see as Valine reaches out, grasping it, you'll hear her say, "Finally, the codicil is and as she starts to say that, she is going to fall forward. Um, Barely missing, smacking her head against the actual lectern. And as she falls to the ground, the codicil is going to fall beside her, and she is unconscious.
Brannick is going to, seeing her fall, seeing the book fall, I think he is going to move towards to scoop up the codicil.
As far as the weight of it goes, I think the Codicil of the White is about a 5 pound book. We can kind of go over some of that in the future here. But otherwise, at present, oh shit, I always forget Professor Scant is with you guys as well. Um, Besides some other kind of random things about what it is that you can't really learn in the initial moment here of picking up the Codicil of the White, what sort of thoughts do you all have as Valine or Nass is apparently unconscious on the ground? Brennick can get the Codicil off of the ground. And you all, what kind of thoughts do you guys got going on?
If Brennick doesn't initially pass out, Valix turns to Finn and says, "It looks like you were correct, since Brennick is the only one that passed all four. Seems he's the only one that can grab it." And then I walk over to Valine or Nas and to inspect her body to see if she's if she's just knocked out, or if she's gonna be out for a while.
Make a medicine check. Brennick did not pass out when he picked up the codicil. There was no apparent change either for Brennick or for anybody else watching him pick it up. As you look over Valine, she's breathing. She does not show any signs of any outward injury. There's some level of she seems apparently unconscious, but is kind of just in a sort of normal sleep at present.
Perhaps, Brannick, the magic's registered Nas as in control, but since it was Valine's body that touched the book, you would know more about these magical things than I.
So Brannick kind of holding the book very close to his close to his chest. You don't know whether it's Valine or Nos, but clearly the threat. We should, while we have the chance, put an end to her.
So she is already in the process of waking up. As this is kind of happening, Valixis is coming over to check on her and starting to look over. You've got Fen kind of saying this, Brennick kind of responding, and you're going to hear from kind of outside of your initial views as Fen and Brennick kind of discuss this. Valine just kind of saying to Valixis, "Where are we? What? What? Where? Grimskull?
Yes, we are. You passed out after picking up the codicil.
She's going to kind of spin around with like a quick recognition as she looks to the south to the statues of the women. And she looks up. Auril, the codicil. Have you found it? Do we have it?
We do have it, but for whatever reason, when you tried to pick it up, you passed out. Um, it seems someone else was in control of your body at the time, named Nos. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Does Rashad asking me not remember that name?
I actually am not. I was looking through, and I don't think I forgot to put it in my notes. I am not remembering that name right now. That's why I was looking through.
He was the rival.
Yeah, she's just going to respond to you. Nas is the cunt who stole Professor Scant. We were searching for her. How have we gotten here? We found her.
We found her grave. Apparently, it was there that she took control of your body.
That might be why I don't remember. I'm sorry. I was because we found her grave. I essentially put it out of my mind since she was dead. It didn't occur to me that's my apologies on that one. But yes, essentially took your body.
She'll look over the others. You say, I fell when I touched it. Nas would destroy anyone to have the codicil. I saw her body. My last memory is of her fate. Perhaps this was the last thing to keep her. Brennick, do you have the codicil hidden from sight?
I feel like you would be trying to, like, as all this was happening, be trying to hide it, but he probably would be
So,
quick enough
as
to.
far as your size goes, it probably wouldn't be that hard. More or less, this book is kind of like a. It looks like kind of a snow fox, like a white kind of fur on the outside. It's probably about 3 or 4 inches thick. Like it's still a thick codex of things, but it's a taller book than it is wide. So you could kind of like easily almost like tuck this under an arm, kind of thing, especially as far as furs go, kind of blending into that like cold weather gear. But if you are making an effort not to see it or not to show it, she's not going to notice right away who has it. Only just that she kind of please. We need the codicil to make it into Yithrin. I am sorry if I did things that surprise you, but I have no memory between now and then. I saw her body like all of you frozen in the ice. Keep the codicil. I want it, but keep the codicil. Yithrin is our prize. Roll another D100 for me, Brennan. I'd say with this one, you're going to kind of hear some of the voice of Dasan, where you basically just hear kind of a repeat from things he's already told you. Basically, something to the effect of, the rich bitch can't do a thing for herself. Of course, she's pleading for your forgiveness. But something to that effect of, Dazan had very little respect for Valine. Valine is from a very famous family. He already kind of shared with you. She paid her way into the Arcane Brotherhood. It is not surprising to see Valine trying to be close to people who are better than her, because everybody is better than her. But otherwise, you guys can kind of continue with this moment. She's kind of making that plea to you.
Braddock is after, he's definitely concealing the codicil. He's almost like he's kind of looking almost on Valine, almost with pity, but he's like looking towards Felixis and Fen, and should go.
So does that sound like the plan? Are you all finished and ready to leave?
Agreed. That sounds like a good idea. He stands up and starts headed towards the door.
Ben's curiosity as to what's behind the other door to the south of us and what's to the north in the room that looked to be identical to the one we're in now.
So do you want to either ask Valine to push open the door, or would two of you like to push open the door?
If Fen is curious about that door to the south, is Valine back to her normal sort of compliant self?
Yeah, like on some level, the Valine who was leading the way and who was like driving the group forward, that was always Nass. The moment I started to push the group was when Nass was in control of Valine. There is a decided change already in the very aspect. That's kind of what I was getting at with the Dasan clue. There is a decided change in her where not only is she kind of begging for forgiveness, she wants the codicil, but has told you that, and also told you that you don't have to give it to her, that it is the key to Yithrin. This is already a pretty keen and clear sight, that this is somebody who fits kind of that stereotype of like rich bitch that Dazan is kind of sharing. Nas was definitely a go-getter who was like, stick up or fall behind. There's only one pace, and it's mine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Fen noticed that right away. I knew something was up once her timid follow with the group demeanor changed and something was up.
I was waiting for like you to actually have a reason to do anything about it, but I feel like you stuck so deep into like not knowing anything about the magics that might be going on. That was definitely well played. Which actually, with that in mind, I'll actually give you an inspiration too. You should be at 20 now.
So in which
Not
case,
sure what you guys are gonna do with all of this, but
Fen and we'll go down with Valine to open the door to the south.
gotcha. So you all can push open this smaller room. I think inside you guys are going to find a room filled with icicles and kind of just like um, rock and stone that has almost fallen apart and aside, but otherwise seems to be empty. Who pushed open the door? Fen and
Well, I was Fen and Valine. I mean, she didn't need my help. but-
gotcha. So Fen and Valine, you can push open the door. You basically see nothing inside.
Okay, then probably will be the same, but let's check the one to the north before we leave. If nobody has any objections.
Brennick is no objections.
None.
So we're gonna retreat out of this room and then head to the one in the north.
Who plans on pushing open that door?
Oh, and this was the one that did have the plaque, right? Something about that's
Queen.
I will return to look, but that sounds about right.
oh, in ice and blood our folk are born, to our great queen we raise our horn, we'll fight and plunder in the morn, the Vastavik and we are sworn, right? That was at
Indeed.
northern.
Kind of over the lintel of the doorway, over the arch of the door.
Actually, before we open it, I'll ask Okuma. Do you have any idea what's behind these doors?
Hmm. Not entirely sure how to phrase it at the intelligence or like kind of wistful, playful nature of Akuma. But at some point they will effectively be able to share. Maybe it comes off kind of as a riddle, almost as if they're playing off of that little line. But basically, I think Akuma's response is going to be death. The dead remain behind that door.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be opening that one then, Brannick.
Is that enough to keep you from opening it, Brennick?
It's enough to put a stop into me.
I think for now, yes, let's leave well enough alone.
Let's just kind of turns towards him and asks, when you say the dead, do you mean living dead or just dead bodies in general?
The creature that is not that intelligent. this is an animal that has the ability to talk. It does not necessarily know the difference. I think you could pretty solidly expect that there's either a grave inside of there or undead. But that this creature would know either way, I don't think there's a good reason for you to expect that. Part of what I was getting at is that this thing has the mentality of a child.
Shut off.
I cut off?
Yeah, you said this thing has, and then it cut off.
Gotcha. Part of what I was trying to get at is this thing has the mentality of a child. I don't think you would have any reason to expect anything different than it not recognizing a difference between something that is dead in a grave and something that is undead. The dead is what it knows, regardless if it is undead or not. It is kind of death. I don't think this thing has that level of mentality.
I don't
And
think
also, it's never been through there either. So it's just saying its response when you open that door is just death. There's more death in there. And from what you guys can kind of read, you're approaching a gravestone to pass a victim.
don't think in our condition we should go looking for trouble. I think, Brannick, perhaps you're right. We should leave.
But I really want to take a peek. But I suppose we can't if there's something that if we have to fight again. I guess. And she got.
Do you want to take enough to ask Valine to open the door?
Uh, but Valine, do you think you could take a peek and see what's inside?
If you are afraid to look, I would err on the side of the caution of your friends. If you would like to look, little one, I can open the door for you.
Curiosity killed the kobolds, and I was saying you should simply leave while we're more or less ahead.
You know what? At that, she would have a flashback to the incident with the treasure chest and the mimic, and she says, "Fine, we'll leave it be."
We're in no shape for a scrap right now.
So, in general, you guys are kind of wrapping up this area here. Do you have any intention to explore anywhere else where you have already been and kind of stepped away from? Or do you all plan to try to make your way to Angajuk and a escape from Solstice?
So Brannick is thinking we try to make our way to the coast as quickly as possible. Listen to any other options from Ben or Alexis.
That sounds like a good idea. It'll be good to get some rest as soon as possible.
Yes, we got what we came for, and whatever the next step is, it's not here, correct?
So, as far as things go, we are going to have at least a little bit of kind of fast forward time um, to sort of allow a little bit of jump in time and not have to micromanage all of the little things of travel. You guys are getting closer and closer where realistically traveling around Icewind Dale itself is not really dangerous. One of the last remaining dangers that you guys really even have is the white dragon that has been seen on occasion. I think you all kind of recognize that that is kind of about your only danger. You guys are ascending the predatory levels of sort of the normal things. You've come into the house of a god and effectively have made your escape without even her presence kind of meeting with you all. In the long run, is the plan to go with another level of wizard for Brennick, or were you thinking about doing another in rogue?
I think given all that's happened, he'll go, yes, another wizard level.
Gotcha. Can you roll a d6 for me? Fen, another level in monk?
Yes, I'm gonna dip in 9, but 8 will be monk.
Gotcha. I believe a monk is a d8 for your hit die. Is that correct? If so, roll a d8 for me.
Correct.
And then Velixis, another level in wizard? Did we lose you, Velixis? You there, Rashad?
I I am. Um, in all honesty, I was actually looking at that while we were talking about. So I'm like, because I
You
was
have
looking.
that decision now. If
Okay,
you
yeah.
know what you want to do, I want you to roll it now. But in the long run, in general, as soon as you guys level, I want you to have some level of you're already thinking about your next level, so you guys are ready to level up here. But in the long run, Rashad, just get back to me as soon as you can about what you are going to do for your next level. And I'll have you roll your dice then. As far as things go offhand, it looks like Brennick, you are going to hop up to 53 hit points. 63 if you've got Morning Lords, like 10 temporary hit points. And then Fen, I think you are going to come up to 69 hit points, and you'll have 79 with the Morning Lord's Blessing as temporary hit points. I think that's where you guys are sitting at present. Does that sound right to you two?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep, I was looking
Um,
at the wrong. I was looking at the 6 from Fen, but I rolled a 4, so yeah, 53 sounds right. Yep.
Gotcha. So that's where I expect you guys to be coming up on it next week here. Among things, just kind of have a rough idea of kind of what you would and talk in the group chat as well to try to plan this general idea so we can try to avoid it together. Um, but there's a certain semblance of we're probably going to push forward to you guys exploring out from the ruins of 10 Towns. As far as things go, if you guys want to check on 10 Towns and you want to see NPCs, let me know that ahead of time so I can try to prepare those like role plays. But as far as I'm concerned, the immediate future of where we will pick up with things is going to be as you guys prepare to set out an expedition um, back into the wilds, whether that be for one particular thing or if you guys are ready to go straight for Yithrin, that is perfectly fine. But that is kind of like the next stage here is approximately like a 10-day or a month from now when you guys are setting back off on this next stage. So I kind of want like a gist of, do you guys care about the people who remain from the 10 Towns, or are you just going straight for Yithrin with no regard for them? If you're spending some time in this town, how long? And that'll kind of decide how much kind of downtime you guys have. And I want you to kind of try to get to that idea together. Are we stopping at every 10 town? So you guys can let me know a few days ahead of time that we want to stop at Bremen, Brinchindar, Targos, and East Haven as we cross the 10 towns and head back into the mountains as we search for this. Or we're going to go through to Brinchindar and head north from there, past Kelvin's Cairn, and start to search for. I want to kind of get like a gist of it so we can kind of try to skip through what might be a lot of that. But if you guys want to see the towns, let me know. That again is where I want to just have an idea of what it is you guys are looking for. This is a huge chapter knocked off here, where you guys have effectively cut off Auril's ability to cast her spell. Day by day, you all are going to notice that the winds lessen, the ice and the blizzards are getting weaker. The further you get away from solstice, the weaker it is. The spell that is holding back the night is gone. The sun is starting to rise. Ten Towns is going to come back to life. They just have, I think the calculation was like 250 people lived, or like 500 people, maybe something out of like 3,000 or whatever it is. They are a fraction of what they are, but I just want you guys to kind of have a rough idea of what you would like to treat with a little bit ahead of time of when we start next week. So those are just kind of some rough things to kind of keep in mind. Otherwise, make sure to level your characters. And we will kind of pick up with this next week. As you start to explore more, I'm going to go into detail with it on some level based on some of your decisions. But at least this first night, all three of you are going to have dreams invaded by Auril, and you are going to see her in your dreams. It's some level of she's almost like looking for a shoulder to cry on kind of thing. Doesn't know whether to hate you all, to destroy you, or to kind of bring you in. Yeah, I feel like that's a good spot to kind of leave that idea back with it until we actually get into it. You guys understand in general everything I want you to do?
Think so. Yep.